What's up YouTube? Shamu Aquariums here, bringing you guys another update on the 135 gallon aquarium. And as you can see, the gravel on the left side looks a bit different. So what I'm going to be doing over the next couple weeks is swapping out all of this white gravel for more naturally colored gravel. Now, I don't know what the name of this gravel is. I bought it at PetSmart. I like the color of it and I picked it out. So I am doing this in sections. As you can see, so far I've only replaced 1/3 section of the tank so far, and all the white stuff is still over here. And the reason why I'm doing it in sections at a time is just so I don't just remove all of the gravel at the same time, because there is beneficial bacteria in the gravel. So I'm giving this new gravel over here time to collect some beneficial bacteria without removing all of it completely. So I got this section done on Tuesday, and I will be moving on to the middle section this weekend, either Saturday or Sunday, whichever day I feel like it. If I don't do it Saturday, I'm going to do it on Sunday. And then the following weekend, just past this rock right here, I'm going to complete the third and final section. Now, like I said, the reason I'm doing this section by section over the period of a couple weeks is so I don't crash my cycle, because there is beneficial bacteria in the gravel. I might even put some of this old gravel in a mesh bag and leave it somewhere in like a corner or something, so I don't completely remove all of my beneficial bacteria from the gravel. Now, I do believe that a majority of the beneficial bacteria is actually in the filters, but just in case people on Facebook are right, I'm doing this step by step. So here's how I went through this process, and this process will be the same process for the next two sections. But what I did is I took these rocks and this driftwood over here and I just tossed it aside to the other side of the tank. And then I started vacuuming the gravel, like the old gravel, like crazy. So that way, like when I eventually remove it, it wouldn't cloud up the tank. So I vacuumed it very thoroughly. I could not move this big giant piece of driftwood here because it's pretty much wedged into the tank. But it was pretty easy to just simply lift it up and just siphon under it and then scoop the old gravel from under it. But yeah, I pretty much gravel vacked the crap out of it until I was no longer seeing any brown stuff come out of it. And then I got a 5-gallon bucket, got my large net, started scooping all the old gravel out. Now, before I started scooping out all the old gravel, I did dig like a long trench from the front of the tank to the back of the tank and placed these large thick rocks down the middle or into the trench front to back of the tank to divide the little section off. It's working pretty well. Now, some of the old gravel will mix in with the new gravel, but it's no big deal. There's such a small amount of that old gravel underneath this new gravel that it's no big deal if it does mix. I probably won't even notice it. But yeah, after I dug that trench, divided the section off, I started pushing most of the gravel to this side and I started scooping it out with a net and into the bucket. I ended up dumping the old gravel outside somewhere into this hole that plumbers had left after finishing a job. But then I started rinsing the absolute crap out of the new gravel in another bucket. And I spent almost an hour running the garden hose and my hand through the new gravel in the bucket until I was no longer seeing a bunch of dust clouds coming out of the new gravel. Then, once I was done rinsing out the gravel, I put Seachem Prime in the bucket full of water and the gravel. That way I got rid of any traces of chlorine in that water, just in case some of that water were to make its way into the tank. And then after I let it sit for like 20 minutes, then I dumped the water out, brought the bucket inside and started scooping the new gravel into the tank with the net. And with the net, I got scoops of the new gravel and I like slowly lowered it towards the bottom of the tank rather than just throwing it in there. And after this process was done, there was like almost no clouding at all whatsoever in here, because I was very, very vigorous when it came to cleaning up the old gravel before I removed it, as well as rinsing the absolute crap out of the new gravel before I put it in the tank. And after this process, the fish were showing zero signs of stress whatsoever. That's because before I got started, I basically like shooed them all off to the other side of the tank so they were out of my way when I was getting to work. Damn, I have cotton mouth. But yeah, there was no stress involved whatsoever. And the reason why I did this with the fish inside the tank is because putting the fish in another temporary spot was not an option. Like, it was not allowed. Under no circumstances can I ever put the fish in a separate temporary aquarium. And no, not even 5-gallon buckets, not even a large plastic storage container, because to my family, that still counts as another aquarium. So I did it with my next option, and that was just to do a deep cleaning on this section of the tank and then remove the old gravel and put new gravel in that I rinsed very vigorously. And it will be a section by section process rather than all at once. Now, could I get away with doing the whole tank at once? Probably, but I'd rather not chance it. Now, as for like when it comes to moving the fish to a temporary holding spot, for one, like I said, the fish had no signs of stress whatsoever after I was done with this section of the tank. Now, if I were to get in there and start chasing them all around with a net, putting them in a small container or a small bucket or multiple small buckets, or even like another temporary tank that was going to be smaller, like just simply moving the fish into a new environment temporarily would have stressed them out greatly. And as you guys know, I have a lot of these roseline sharks, also known as Denison barbs, and these fish are an absolute nightmare to catch. And just like bala sharks, you chase these guys around with a net, they're gonna go flying out of the tank. It doesn't matter if I lower the tank water down to here, they can jump pretty damn high. And obviously I do not want to lower the tank water down to here, because changing that much water out would shock them. But yeah, catching roseline sharks is not fun, and it would have stressed them out a lot more than it would have if I were to just do this with the fish in the tank section by section. Luckily, they were showing no signs of stress, and I know for a fact that it would have been a whole different story if I were to remove them from the tank. And keep in mind, when these fish jump out of a tank, it doesn't matter if they're only flopping around on the floor for like 5 seconds and then you immediately put them back in the water. They'll still die a few days later anyway. That's just how they are. Kind of sucks, but I did not want to risk having these guys jump out. Plus the fact that when you try to chase them around with a net, they will completely freak out and crash into the glass, crash into objects in the tank. It's a pretty stressful situation for both me and the fish, so I'd rather just not catch them, period. I don't catch these rose lines unless I absolutely have to, like moving them to a new tank permanently or getting rid of them, moving them tank to tank. But for this, it was better to just do it with the fish in. The water barely got clouded up, and I woke up the next morning to a perfectly crystal clear tank. It all went smooth. Tested my water today. No ammonia, no nitrite, and very low nitrates. And all is good. So I will be getting to this section this weekend, and then the third section the following weekend. And so far so good with these rocks being used as like a divider. They're holding back both sides of the gravel from mixing with each other. But like I said, if it mixes a little bit, it's no big deal. Like when I scooped the old gravel out, I'm probably getting like 95% of it out, and it's no big deal if that little bit of old white gravel mixes up. I even found a little blue pebble in the old gravel while I was scooping it out, and that little blue pebble actually came from my old 40-gallon tank that I had like over a decade ago, and it somehow made its way into this tank, and I've had like 2 new tanks since then. Now, when it comes to this large piece of driftwood, this large piece of wood will not be moved out. But the thing is, with my driftwood, it is all sitting on top of the gravel. It is not buried into the gravel. It's just basically sitting on top of it. So I can easily just pick it up and move it aside, or like siphon with the gravel vac underneath it, scoop gravel out from underneath it, and then just put it back, and all is good. Like as you can see here, it's not buried into the gravel. It's literally sitting on top of it. Now, I would just have to remove the rocks, and that's about it. But yeah, this is what I call Project Gravel Swap. Got a third of it done. So far so good. And you probably can't tell on camera, but with my own eyes I can tell that when these Denison barbs swim over it, they're more their natural colors actually start to show more, versus when they're swimming over this white gravel, and the lights are actually reflecting upwards, so it makes their color appear lighter. Now granted, I do edit my videos like by messing around with the brightness adjustment. I dim them down a little bit, and that's because I'm trying to make the fish appear more as they do when I look at them with my naked eye. So when I edit my videos, it's more to make them look like how they do in person rather than enhancing their colors. And when I have this whole entire tank with the new naturally colored gravel, I probably won't have to do that anymore, because I'm already noticing them like show their more natural coloration even more so when they swim over here. Because for the longest time, my largest fully mature roseline here, he has always been the only one that seems to have that fully mature natural coloration on him. But when all the other ones swim over here, they all have that natural fully mature coloration on them. It's pretty cool to see. So yeah, this tank is gonna look 100% natural. My days of having white gravel are completely over, and the one main reason I wanted to get rid of it is because, I don't know if you can see it on video, but it is turning pink, and I don't want that. So yeah, that's all for today's video. So like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video.